Hello, I'm Fred Evans. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Serving Together, a program of every mind that coordinates services for veterans, will report in July on the progress of programs throughout the area that ease the life of veterans. Michael Ball, the director of Serving Together, has the details.
Thank you.
The Fulbright organization is planning an international meeting in the United States to highlight the importance of international friendships throughout the world. Dr. Bruce Fowler is on the board of directors of Fulbright and has the story. Friends of the Library of Montgomery County works hard to highlight the importance of libraries here for all residents. Tom Thomson, president of the Friends of the Library Board, will tell us what libraries mean to him. The Special Victims Division of the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office prosecutes crimes including child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, and elder abuse. Debbie Feinstein will discuss her division's efforts to protect vulnerable members of our community. Welcome to all of you. Michael, welcome.
Us. Thank you.
Please tell us the essence of the program that you're involved with.
Sure. Serving Together is forming a network of organizations meeting the entire spectrum of needs for veterans and their families and caregivers across the entire National Capital Region. We've been doing that for about 8 years now, but about a year ago we entered into a partnership with a program called America Serves, which is a program of Syracuse University that brings with it a software that we use to connect all of the organizations that are within our network. We have 84 organizations in our network right now, meeting everything from housing, employment, transportation, across a whole spectrum of needs. And when somebody comes into your office, now you can take 2 minutes, enter them into this network, and focus on what you do best, but see that their other co-occurring needs are being met.
Sorry to interrupt. Those
No, go
84
ahead.
organizations, you're talking locally in Montgomery County? Or
that is,
national?
our area of operations is from Frederick, Montgomery County, Prince George's
Gotcha. County,
the district, and then Loudoun, Fairfax, and Prince William. But there's no hard borders on the edge of that. Veterans are very transient population.
If I'm a
There's
veteran,
lot
I
of
can get
And not just
access.
veterans. One of the things we're trying to get out to people is that it's not just for veterans, but caregivers as well. We're seeing a lot of caregivers that are not in any way related. They may be a neighbor or a friend, but we're populating this network with resources that are not just veteran specific, so that when that caregiver or that family member or that spouse calls in, we can reach out to that network and find them resources to help them as well. But in the past, this year that we've been using this, we've seen a little over 600 veterans and family members, and we've had about a little over 1,400 cases. So you can see from that there's at least almost 2.5 on average needs per person that calls in.
Wow.
So one of the benefit that I see to this network of services is meeting these co-occurring needs, because in the past people would not know how to deal with something that was outside of their scope of practice, but now you can reach into this network. So not only are we trying to ease this issue of navigation for the veterans and their families, but provide some accountability and transparency for the organizations that are in the network as well. Gotcha. So now you know that these needs that you sent this veteran or family member to Serving Together for are being sent out to another organization within the network. You can actually see which organization that went to, who at that organization is seeing that, and what they're doing. So it provides this level of accountability and transparency and taking care of that whole spectrum of needs that wasn't there before. But
Mike, can you tell us a little bit about some kinds of needs that veterans bring to your office?
I can. It's been, housing, employment, and financial assistance have been by far the largest needs that we've seen so far. That kind of varies from month to month as to which is the highest, and it may vary from region to region, from county to county across our region here. And that's fairly standard across. We're one of 17 of these America Serves networks across the country, and those are fairly standard as the top needs across the country as well. And housing is expensive here, so all three of them are very much tied together. The housing issues are usually related to an unemployment or underemployment issue, and then that leads to a financial issue. And financial assistance is, unfortunately, one of the hardest things to get, because that's hard to find an organization that can meet that can give us $2,000, $3,000 for that one veteran. Frequently, we are able to reach out across the network and say, hey, if you can put in a little and you can put in a little, we can help this veteran stay in their house. And then this organization will help them get employed, and this organization will help with their child care needs, and this organization will help with their transportation and get them back on their feet. But that's another, a big benefit of having that network of services.
If you had to identify your greatest need, what would it be right now?
Right now, it's employment is the number one need in a network. So either unemployment or frequently underemployment. People just the veterans are working. One of the things we're seeing is that veterans within that first few years after they transition tend to leave jobs frequently for that first few years until they find that career that they want to do after they transition. So. And with the cost of living and housing here, underemployment is an issue. So we do have multiple employment providers within our network that we are connecting veterans to help them with their resumes, their job search.
Since your collaboration you were describing, have things changed? Have things improved?
I think that what has really improved for us is that data, collecting that. What the software brings with it is this data collection capability. So, a year and a half, 2 years ago, the story, I may be able to have given you, anecdotal stories about what type of veterans we're serving in what community, but now I can actually tell you, you want to know specifically how many female post 9/11 veterans in this county were served in this month. I can get that granular with the data now, and that really helps with partners and funders, and it helps us know where the needs are. Where do we, if this particular need is taking a long time to meet in this county, maybe we need to get out there and find some more services that can meet that need and get them into the network. So we can actually take how long. So it's enabled you to
expand your reach, essentially?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Expand the number of, we're seeing a lot of legal assistance requests, for example, and we don't have legal providers that are doing pro bono work in this. We try to keep everything within the network free for the veterans.
We've got about 20 seconds.
Okay.
What is one final word you'd like to leave our audience with?
We will be having an in-progress review. Every 6 months we do an in-progress review for partners and other service providers. We're doing that at the Henry M. Jackson Foundation on the 11th of July from 1 to 3. Going over all of the data for the first year. We'll have a panel of providers talking about how the network and using the network has been for them.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Very, very informative, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
It's critical. Dr. Fowler.
Happy to be here.
You're going to talk about international peace, right? No,
right, that's my hope.
I don't want to be facetious. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. What I wanted to highlight is the Fulbright Association, of which I'm a member of the board of directors, is holding its annual meeting in this area in October.
So it'll be in the Washington, D.C. area?
Yeah, it'll be down near the airport. And it's basically, this happens every 2 years, and we bring together people from all over the world, really, who come to this, October 24, 25, 26. And one of those days, we will have a visit to Capitol Hill to talk to our congresspersons about issues related to trying to solve things in a peaceable way,
right,
as opposed to unpeaceable. This particular organization was founded by J. William Fulbright.
Right.
It was initiated in 1946. And his idea was, this is right after World War II, that there's got to be a better way to do these things, to have these
And that was Senator Fulbright.
It was Senator Fulbright.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, from Arkansas.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about a number of issues. I happen to be the chair of the advocacy committee for the Fulbright Association. And one of the issues that I want to make sure personally that we get to the surface has to do with global warming. Mm-hmm. This is a festering problem, and I just cannot imagine we could ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist any longer. I mean, this has really we got to get on this. Now, this is where Fulbright could play a role, because we're in 165 countries around the world.
Mm-hmm.
There are many heads of state who have been former Fulbrighters who get it. So the idea, though, is that this is an opportunity, as I see it, for the Fulbright Association to take a leadership role in what's called soft diplomacy, which is that we sit down and we talk about it, and as opposed to bomb or shoot or something else.
Is climate change the theme, or is there a theme for this year's, or is that just one of the things that you'll be talking about?
That's just one of the things. It's a general conference, basically, to have people get together and discuss and make plans. And what I'm saying is that I'm personally going to push for this because I just, and watching the television in the last few days, I mean, dog sleds going across the top of the glaciers
I
in
saw
the
that.
water.
Yeah,
Yep.
I saw that video
really,
as well.
Is the conference open to anyone to attend, or is
Yeah,
it?
you have to pay a registration fee, but it's open, and we're into inclusivity. I'll say it like that. And we want people to get together and talk and share ideas, and particularly young people.
Well, it seems like that talking about climate change, the Fulbright Society itself has been, promoting and younger people been winning awards to study abroad to study things such as this.
Correct.
This seemed to be perfectly normal to have that type of discussion on an issue of global importance.
I think so too.
Why does global warming get pushed aside?
Well, it's a diffuse thing. I mean, you could say, well, the temperature is warmer this week than it was last week,
Right.
but it'll cool down again in October. But it's the data are coming in, and they're getting more and more convincing that this is a trend, and it isn't funny. The consequences of cities on the shore, on the coastlines being flooded, like
Right.
Miami would be one, but also Shanghai and Hong Kong.
Right.
And then on top of that, there are toxic chemicals that have been stored in the ice and the snow since World War II, when we started using DDT to treat malaria. These are going to be coming back. They are coming back, being released from those stores. So it means that we have some food issues and some health issues related to toxic chemicals as well. So this is something that is, I really think we have to get on this.
So it seems like that data has been out there. I'm sorry. It seems like that data has been out there for a while, and people still aren't believing it. How do you get that? There are people, I talk to people all the time. Oh, this is just a 10-year cycle. This is not a long-term change. How do you get people to believe that?
You have 30 seconds to answer that.
30 seconds.
That's right.
Well, we have an epidemic of obesity, diabetes, and a number of other things that can be linked to these persistent organic chemicals. POPs is what they're called.
Interesting.
And so we don't need them coming into our food supply.
Right.
And diabetes and those things those are horrendous societal costs aside from the health effects.
Thank you. You handled that well. We have to take a break right now. We'll be right back. Thank you. And we're back. Tom, welcome.
Thank you. Nice
Tell
to
us
see you.
about the Friends of the Library.
Well, the Friends of the Library is a not-for-profit organization that supports Montgomery County Public Libraries. We raise funds for the public library. We do awareness campaigns to elevate knowledge about the services and things that the public library system offers. For me, public libraries have been something that played a huge role in my life and really helped me to make decisions about my career, about what I wanted to pursue in life and so forth, and it led to opportunities that took me to other parts of the world.
How so? How so? Give me an example.
Libraries was a place where, when you're a young person, it opens doors.
Okay.
It's like walking into this whole room where the world's in front of you, whether it's history, whether it's science, whether it's anything, and you can walk in there and you can learn about it and be a part of it. And that just creates in your own mind the dreams of what you can do and what you'd like to pursue. It led me to careers where I lived abroad for a long time. I took jobs in different areas because I was curious about what it was like to do this. It was just fantastic for me. That, for me, was one of the reasons I got involved with the Friends of the Library, because supporting libraries is, for me, what it did for me could do for anybody. And just open that door for younger people, early education, younger people who are coming up and learning to read and getting ready for school, to teenagers, younger people, preteens who are looking to kind of figure out what the world is all about, what's of interest to them.
How
and
do
so
you
on.
how do you find sort of, I mean, this is maybe a belated question, but the intersection of the internet and sort of that being a door opener versus the library? I have 2 teenagers, and
Sure,
so
sure.
they honestly don't spend a lot of time in the library, although I'd like them to. But they're mostly in front of a computer screen. So
Oh, sure, sure. I think for what the public libraries have been doing, particularly in Montgomery County, but not just Montgomery County, but is really providing the platforms by which you can experience learning and reading and so forth. Whether it's a book, whether it's a computer, it's all there. And libraries also are venues by which you can learn things. There's adult education, there's early education there for younger people. It's just countless things that are available to people in order for them to be able to enjoy, learn, and grow.
How many Andrew Carnegie libraries do we have in this area?
I don't know for sure. That's a very, very good question, because Mr. Carnegie played a huge role
got it
in
early.
making libraries public.
That was big in my hometown of
Yes,
Pittsburgh,
indeed.
'cause
Yes,
where
indeed.
he was
Yeah.
based.
And I don't know, that's a very good question to answer, but it really speaks to the fact that the concept of a public library is not that old when you think about it.
Right.
Right,
Only in maybe 100 and some years, no more
right,
than that.
right.
Historically, libraries are funded by the public, they privately, not by the government.
Interesting.
are you finding that community members are accessing the programs in large numbers? Like I know, for example, my niece and nephew attend a lot of programs at libraries that are targeted at younger children.
Absolutely.
And get a lot of value out of those.
Absolutely. There's a lot of programs offered by the public libraries, such as in STEM education. One of the things that the Friends of the Library funded was these Go Kits, which are these backpacks full of things like an iPad and other types of items in there where children can study science. They can check this out and they can use this. There are
Equity, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Equity is a big issue. Those kids who might not have access to the computers at home or the technology at home, the library becomes the key point for them. Is
Absolutely,
that accurate?
absolutely. Oh yeah, and there's programs offered through the library where there are people who come in to teach,
Right.
actually most like facilitators for groups of children and so forth and adults on issues of importance to them or something they want to learn and so forth. It's a great venue by which it's publicly funded and available to everyone to take full advantage of that.
Right, right.
Well, I think the other thing about libraries that I learned early on when I was in high school was that if I had a textbook in physics that was given out at school, if I went to the library and got a textbook in physics by another author, I got a different perspective on it.
Interesting.
And it really broadened out the way I thought about everything. So these are resources that, it's a subtle thing, but yet very, very valuable in terms of
Right.
understanding.
No, absolutely, and I think that's what one of the things the public libraries are trying to do is provide that breadth of knowledge and information available to anyone who wants to have access to it.
And what is the final word you'd like to send our public about libraries?
Go to your library, use it, learn what would be important
Take
for
your
you.
teenager to it.
Take your take your teenagers. Take your children when they're young to
Okay.
go to libraries.
Well,
that
thank-
kind of speaks to your issue about having your teenagers wanting to be attendees and
Thank you.
patrons of libraries.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Ms. Feinstein, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today. I
good to
wanted
hear.
to sort of tell you all a little bit about the work that we're doing at the State's Attorney's
Yes.
Office to protect vulnerable members of our society. The division that I'm the chief of really focuses on the prosecution and holding individuals accountable when they perpetrate crimes against children, against their partners, their intimate partners, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their parents.
Right.
And we also look at
Elder
sexual
care.
elders, that's right, vulnerable adults. We do work in the area of human trafficking prevention,
Right.
as well as sexual assault prevention. And our primary focus at the State's Attorney's Office obviously is the prosecution of these crimes and working with the police department and other collaborations that we have to build strong evidence, against individuals who would perpetrate these crimes. But we also have kind of a dual function in getting out and doing a lot of education and prevention in the community. We had a wonderful event last week where we brought in about 500 seniors to the Holiday Park Senior Center who learned about the red flags of abuse, the different types of elder abuse,
So
financial,
it's an education
physical.
program
Absolutely.
That's excellent.
Absolutely. One of the programs that I'm really involved with also is something called Choose Respect Montgomery, where we focus on prevention of teen dating violence. And we go into the public schools and we educate literally thousands of kids per year about what healthy relationships look like, and how to protect themselves, how to protect a friend, where to report if something isn't right. Really to sort of bring these issues that may have previously kind of been hiding or people were keeping a secret out into the light so that people can know more about what's happening.
This doesn't occur in Montgomery County, does it?
We would like to believe that, but unfortunately our statistics here in the county are no different than anywhere else.
Right.
I recall a conversation that I had with a student who was a senior in high school and was involved with another young woman, and her girlfriend was saying to her, I don't want you to go on senior beach week. I don't want you to spend time with other people. I just want you to spend time with me. You're not worth anything, unless you're with me. You must basically only show your love for me, or you're, basically a piece of trash along the street. And this young woman bought into that for a long time. Her grades slipped, her social involvement slipped, and it's really hard. And we try to talk to kids about, there are places to get help if that's happening.
I had a question about just for yourself and your team. You must, some of the things that you're seeing on a daily basis are pretty horrific. What do you do? I mean, we are at Serving Together actually putting on a class the end of July on just caregiver fatigue and provider burnout. Do you do something like that for your team, just because of the things that they have to see and deal with on a daily basis?
So we do have a lot of conversations about vicarious trauma and sort of how, and now I know there's new studies out there about how vicarious trauma, not only is it by observing, but really also it's almost as if you've experienced it yourself in some ways. I know there's new studies out there that are talking about sort of the way the brain brings in that trauma, and really the way that we deal with it is to talk about it, to have open conversations. I have a wonderful team at the State's Attorney's Office, very supportive of each other. We also have collaborations with other providers to provide support. I'm looking right now at trying to bring in a yoga class, a mental health yoga class, that sort of thing, and really try to think about those things, because we can't do our jobs if we're not whole and healthy.
You mentioned there were public awareness programs that you have on these issues, and you mentioned the schools, and you probably have other programs out there too for other elder abuse. You mentioned that, but are there other demographic groups that you focus on as well in your public awareness programs?
Well, really anyone that will have us. Let me be clear on any of these issues. We've been doing a lot of work out there now on consent and the issues of sexual assault and consent, not only with young people, but also with adults. It's an issue that pervades everywhere. One of the things that I'm seeing is some of the dangers that come along with dating apps. And the way that dating apps can be used as a method of, frankly, a vehicle for violence. We've had a number, unfortunately, of homicides in our county where the individuals initially met on a dating app, and they just don't know a lot about each other. So we're trying to do education and prevention around that. And then working a lot with Montgomery County Public Schools, we're doing child abuse prevention. If you want to volunteer in a school or do anything in a school these days, you have to take a child abuse prevention course in order to do that, which is a huge thing that MCPS has been doing over the last 5 years.
That's excellent.
I wonder if I could jump in about the awareness
We have
issue.
about a minute left.
Okay, 30 seconds. The issue of awareness, given that this county is as well educated and affluent as it is, that these things can be happening in here is mind-boggling to me. I mean, if this was some rural county out in another state that wasn't so well off, I could imagine it, but
Well, I can tell you this, so the data,
Yeah.
both in Montgomery County and really any place you could drop yourself in this country, is the same.
Right.
1 in 3 women are directly impacted by domestic violence. 1 in 7 men are direct victims of domestic violence. 1 in 10 seniors are victimized by some form of elder abuse. We are not immune, and I think one of the things that actually allows abuse to happen is by believing that this can't or doesn't happen here.
Right.
And one of the things that I talk about a lot is it does. We don't want to believe it. It does happen, and we need to work together to have people be aware of that.
I'm sorry. On that note, very important note, I want to thank all of you for joining me this week, and thank you for joining all of us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Fred Evans. Please join us next week at the same time. Thank you all very much.